So it'll be the intervals where the function is increasing, decreasing, or constant. All right, so we need to discuss what does it mean for a function to increase or decrease or stay constant. Now, remember the function notation we talked about the other day. Function notation would be f of x, g of x, h of x, and so on. So that's your function notation. Do you remember what f of x, g of x, h of x stands for in terms of coordinates?
No.
Anybody?
F of x is y.
F of x is y. Thank you. So it means the y coordinate. All right, x is the x coordinate, f of x is the y coordinate. G of x is the y coordinate. H of x is the y coordinate. Okay? All right. So in terms of this graph right here, this right here, go ahead and take that one out. So the first thing we're going to do is determine the intervals where f of x, and let's say this is function f of x, is increasing, decreasing, and constant. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, talk about, well, where's it increasing, where's it decreasing, where's it constant? Okay, so you read a graph from left to right. You always read a graph from left to right. Okay? And remember, f of x is y. So as I go from left to right on my graph, as I go from left to right, notice what's happening. Now remember, your graph is made up of all these points, correct? Y'all see all those points, right? How many points are on this graph, on this function? An infinite number. And the points are only those that lie on here. Is this right here a point on the graph? No. Okay, so you read a graph from left to right. So as I trace over the graph going from left to right, see how I'm tracing? You see this, right? Okay. As I'm going from left to right, I'm tracing over the graph. It's kind of like a road. You're driving on this road. If you think it like this. Okay, look at the y values. Remember, f of x means what? Y. So as I'm going from left to right, what are the y values doing here? They're increasing. My y, you see I'm going up, right? So if I go up, what's happening to my y values? Increase. All right, if I go down, what's happening to my y values? If I stay horizontal, what's happening to my y values? Constant. Okay, good. So as and remember, these are arrows though. So some of them will have arrows, some of them will have closed circles, some will have open circles. Okay, so as I go from left to right, my y values are increasing, then all of a sudden they are doing what? Decreasing, and then all of a sudden they are constant, and then all of a sudden they are increasing, and then all of a sudden they are constant. Okay? And so when we mention the words increase, decrease, constant, and so on, that's the intervals you're going to put here. And when we talk about increasing, decreasing, constant, we're talking about open intervals. Open intervals. So, and the reason I'm talking about I mentioned the word open intervals is because remember when we talked about domain, that's where we use the brackets for the circles. Remember that? Okay. With increasing, decreasing, constant, you're never going to use brackets. You're always going to use parentheses. Okay? So that's what we talk about. That's why it's open interval. So parentheses. These are all going to be parentheses right here. Okay, so here we go. You see how this is pointing towards the idea of negative infinity here? Okay, so you see it keeps on going down, right? Like this, y'all agree? All right, so, and that's an arrow right here. Y'all agree, right? Okay, so this arrow is going this way, so what idea is that? Negative infinity. So as I go along the graph from negative infinity, and remember you're talking about the x coordinate. I should say this as well. So let me mention this. The intervals you put here has to come from the domain, and the domain is a set of which coordinates? The x's. Okay, that's going to be important. So the domain is going to be the set of x coordinates. So remember when I think we had drew a line. There was something we did last class period where we used a colored pen and we drew a vertical line to indicate where things changed. Okay, so watch what we're going to do. As I go from left to right, see how I'm going from left to right here? My y values are doing what? Increasing. So as I go from left to right along the x-axis, my y values are doing what? Increasing. Then all of a sudden they're doing what? Okay, so let me go back over this. So as I go from left to right, my y values are increasing, and then all of a sudden they're doing what? Okay, so I'm going to draw a vertical line here to indicate where it changes. So you may want to see this little, and it's just colors pink, you can't tell it's pink, but tell me what that x coordinate is right here. -7, very good. Okay, so from negative infinity, see this is pointing towards negative infinity, correct? Yes. So from negative infinity to -7, what did my y values do? Increase. From -7 to, and then all of a sudden they're doing what? Decrease, and then it changes, right? And it changed here. What's that x coordinate? So you may want to actually label this -5 if you want to. So from -7 to -5, what's happening to my y values? They decrease. And then from -5 all the way to, what do you think would be the next one I would pick? -2, very good. So from -5 to -2, my y values did what? Constant. And then from -2 to, what's that, -1? -1? What did my y values do? Increase. And all of a sudden they're constant from -2 to what? Infinity, because of the arrow. Okay? So when you talk about increase, decrease, constant, the numbers you put here, the intervals you put here will come from the x-axis. But they come from the x-axis depending on what your y values are doing. So my y values are increasing, change, then they decrease, change, and then they're constant, change, and then they increase, change, and then they're constant. Okay, so you may want to actually draw these lines on a worksheet or on a test, okay? All right, now here's how you answer the question. Remember, f of x means the same thing as y. So my y values are doing what? Increasing. It's increasing. Remember, this is an arrow, so it keeps on going, so I got to keep on going this way. So from negative infinity to what? -7, it is doing what? Increasing. Okay? Then from -7 to -5, between these two x coordinates, it's decreasing. So we said -7 to -5. And then from -5 to -2, what's it doing? Constant. So you say -5 to -2. In that interval, it's constant. Then all of a sudden, from here to here, it's doing what? And that's what interval? -1. Okay, so union -2 to -1. Remember, make sure you put the word union. And then from -1 to what? It is doing what? Constant. Okay? All right, so when we do a couple more, it should be ingrained at that point how to do this. All right, so notice that the numbers, those intervals came from the x-axis, right? Those intervals came from the x-axis. So that's why you need, if you can't think about this without putting those lines, you need to put those lines. Some of you don't need to put those lines. Others do. So that increasing, decreasing constant, those intervals come from the x-axis. So that's where your y values change. They're increasing, all of a sudden it changes to what? Decreasing. It changes to what? It changes to what? It changes to what? Okay. All right. Now, find f of, let's say I want to find f of -4. So one of the things you're going to have to do in section 2.1, and we're going to finish up 2.1, one of the other things you got to do is from a graph, you got to determine what f of -4 is, or in this case, f of -4. Now remember, what does that negative 4 represent? No. X. So the question is, when x is negative 4, what is the what? Y value. That's the question. When x is negative 4, what is the y value? Well, do y'all agree that when x is negative 4, the point is this point right here? Y'all agree?
Yes.
That right here. So y'all agree that when x is negative 4, this is the point of the graph.
Yes.
So you have to tell me, and I'm going to put a blank here, that number that goes here is which value? No, but I'm sorry, you're right. But tell me y. Very good. The y value. And so that y value is negative 2, so you put negative 2 there. Okay? All right, let's look at another one like that. Suppose you want to find f of, let's say you want to find f of 100. F of 100. Now you might say, well, we don't even have 100 on the graph. Well, it doesn't matter. You can tell me what it is. It's 2 because it's constant, right? So no matter where you go from, where does it start in the x? Negative 1? So no matter where you, from negative 1 to infinity, my y values are always going to be what? 2. Y'all need to see that, right? Okay, that's way out here, but it's this right here, correct? That's all these are what y values? 2s. Suppose you want to find, let's say you want to find f of negative 7. F of negative 7. What's f of negative 7? All right. So again, you want to find that point. It helps if you find the point. So when x is negative 7, here's negative 7, right? So you'll agree that that's the point here. What's that y value? 2. Y'all see it? That y value is 2. Let's see. What about f of 0? F of 0. F of 0 is 2. Remember, x equals 0 is along which axis? Well, it's along the, when I shoot for the y value, it's along the y-axis, right? Okay. So when x is 0 here, the point's here on the y-axis. So again, that's also what? 2. Okay? All right. And that's about all you can do from this graph. They're also going to ask you to find the X-intercepts and the Y-intercepts, but you have to estimate here. So we're going to do the X-intercepts in another problem, but I think you can tell me what the Y-intercept is real easily. What's the Y-intercept? What is it? 2. The Y-intercept is 2. Y'all agree? Remember, the Y-intercept is where the graph does what? Cross the, no, not the x-axis, the y-axis. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Okay? That's where the graph crosses the y-axis. So cross the y-axis 2. Now they ask you to put an ordered pair. What would that look like as an ordered pair? Yeah, ordered pair would be 0, 2. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. Okay. All right, so as you go, it's very similar to the other one. So as you go from left to right, your y values are doing what? Increasing all of a sudden there, decreasing all of a sudden there, and then constant, correct? So if you need to draw your line, you draw it here, here, right? And here. Y'all agree? Okay. So where is it increasing? Negative infinity to negative 3, you said? Where is it increasing? 1, 2, 3. Y'all agree? Okay. Where is it decreasing? Negative 3 to 1. Anywhere else? Nope. Where is it constant? 3 to infinity. Now, if it didn't, if something didn't occur, like let's say never decreased, you would put nowhere. So if it doesn't increase, you say nowhere. If it doesn't decrease, you say nowhere. If it's not constant, you say nowhere. So you see what to put if it doesn't apply, right? You say nowhere. All right, and then tell me what the X-intercepts are. How many are there? No. Remember, X-intercepts is where the graph crosses what? The x-axis. So how many times does the graph cross the x-axis? 3 times. What are they? -4, comma, -2, comma, and 2, right? Now don't put that in parentheses. You leave it like that. Now they ask you to put this as an ordered pair. You'd have 3 ordered pairs, and what would they be? No. -4, 0. 0, -4 is along the y-axis. -4, 0 is where? On the x-axis. I don't know why it's so blurry. It's on the x-axis, right? Okay. What's the other one? And where's the other one? Okay. All right. And then again, if they want you to find, let's say you want to find f of -2. What's f of -2? That's a -2. Yeah, it's right here. F of -2 is this point right here, right? What's that y coordinate? 0. Y coordinate 0. All right, so any questions so far on this? Okay, look at the next page. All right, next page. Okay, so notice this does not have an arrow, this has an arrow. So from, that's a dot right here. So from -5, from -5 to what? 2, my function's doing what? Constant. From 2 to what? 3 is doing what? Decreasing. Now when I say decreasing, I mean the y values are decreasing. And then my y values are doing what? Increasing from where? 3 to infinity. Okay, good. So now we're going to write that out. So the intervals where the graph is increasing is where? 3 to infinity? 3 to infinity, right? Decreasing? 2 to 3. And constant? -5 to 2? Okay. Let's try to do that. Suppose you want to find f of, let's say, I don't want to estimate here, so let's do f of -2. What's f of -2? 3. So remember, f of -2 is this one right here. So here's -2, here's the point. So that y value is what? 3. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept. Yeah. So remember, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So the y-intercept is at 3. As an ordered pair, what would it look like? 0, 3. Good. What's the x-intercept? 3 as well, because it's right here, right? But as an ordered pair, what would that look like? 3, 0. Okay, so any questions at this point? Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so again, we're going to do increasing, decreasing, constant. So from, remember, there are no arrows here, right? You don't see any arrows. So from -3 to what? No, no, what's it doing? Look, it's your y values. Look at your y values. Your y values are doing what? They're decreasing all the way, right? Okay, so from negative, you can't see it very well, but from -3 rather, to what? 0, it's decreasing. Then your y values are doing what? Increasing all the way to x equal what? 2, and then decreasing from x equal 2 to x equal what? 3. All right, so remember, your increase, decreasing constant, you go along the x-axis. You're looking at the domain. Okay, so increasing from 0 to what? 2. Decreasing from where? -3 to 0, union, that's a 2. 2 to what? 3. Constant? Nowhere. Say nowhere. Okay? What is f of -2? What do you think f of -2 is? 1. So remember, f of -2, so when x is -2, when x is -2, and -2 is right here, what's that y value right here? So it's 1. Any questions on that? All right. You could tell me easily what the y-intercept is. What's the y-intercept? -2. Okay. As an ordered pair, what is it? 0, -2. You would have to, and how many x-intercepts are there? There are 3. You would have to estimate this one and this one, but you could tell me what this one is. What's this one? 1, yeah. But I'm not going to list them because you would have to estimate, and each of you could have a different number, as long as it's close to wherever this is. So I'm not going to ask you about the x-intercept on this one. But remember, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and the x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis. Now, on all of these, are all these functions? How do you know they're functions? Has a vertical line test. So the vertical line test says that for each of those x values, there's how many y values for each one? Just 1. All right, look at this one. All right, so it's so as I go along the x-axis from left to right, as I go from left to right, my y values are doing what? Decreasing. And then all of a sudden they're going to do what? All right. So what x does it change at? Look at your paper. -2. So it changes here. Okay. So increasing from where? -2 to infinity. Decreasing. No, be careful. You go along the x-axis. So a common mistake people make is you see that arrow's pointing up, so people think infinity. But remember, you're looking at the domain, so you're going from where? -infinity to infinity along the x-axis. Remember, from here to here. So from -infinity to -2, my y value is doing what? Decreasing. Okay. Make sure you understand that. And then where's the constant? Nowhere. What's the x-intercepts? -7 and 3, is that correct? Okay. Now don't put parentheses here, because you put parentheses, you're saying that it's a point. -7, 3 is not a point. -7 is the x-intercept, and 3 is also the x-intercept. If you want to list it as a point, you have to do the ordered pairs. What's this ordered pair going to be? And what's this one? All right. And you can easily tell me what the y-intercept is. What's the y-intercept? Okay, -5 as an ordered pair. What is it? 0, -5. Very good. The line is pretty thick, so let's suppose I want you to find f of Now remember, I keep using f, but function notation can be f of x, g of x, h of x, and all that, right? So let's say this is my function h of x. I'm just going to call it a different function, h of x. Suppose I want to find h of negative 4. Negative 4. H of negative 4. So look at your own graph and see if you can figure out where negative 4 is located. Yeah, so when x is negative 4, right here, the point of the graph is here. So what's that y value? Look at your own paper. You can't see it from here. You have to use your own paper. Negative 5. And what if I asked you to find h of negative 5? I think you can do that one also. Yeah, so when x is negative 5, that's this right here, right? So that's negative 4? Okay. Go over here. All right, so this is a dot. Oops, you can't see it. This right here is a dot. And a dot and another dot, but it's open circle, closed circle, closed circle, closed circle. All right, so let's see. Remember, you always go from left to right. So we're going to talk about increasing, decreasing, constant. As I go from left to right, I start here, correct? All right, because it's not an arrow. It's a closed circle. It's a dot. So I start here, and as I go from left to right, what are my y values doing? Constant. In fact, they're all going to be what right here? 0. Then all of a sudden, my y values are doing what? All of a sudden, they're doing what? Decreasing up to this point. Then they're decreasing still from here to what? Yeah, not infinity to 5, right? You'll see that? Okay, so watch. So here's how you're gonna draw your line. So I start here, correct? Okay, because it's not an arrow. You know, this is a point. It's not an arrow. So from here to what other x value? Very good. Negative 2. What are my y values doing? Constant. From here to what x value? 0. What are my y values doing? Increasing. Now be a little bit careful here because there's a break. You see this break? Okay, from 0 to 1, what's my y value doing? Okay, and then from 2 to what? 5, my y values are doing what? Decreasing. Now you may say, well, why can't you say from 0 to 5, right? Because in your mind you're saying, well, it's decreasing from x equals 0 to what? X equals 5. But remember, you got to list your domain. So remember, the intervals here are numbers in the domain. Is there a graph between 1 and 2? Is there anything happening between 1 and 2? No, there's no graph here. So you got to leave a space there. So that's a little bit difficult. Yes. Okay, so the open circle here would mean that point is not part of the graph. It's not in the domain. So remember a while ago if I asked you to find, let's suppose I asked you to find, and let's call this g of x. Suppose I want you to find g of, let's say, negative 1. All right. I think all of you can now tell me what g of negative 1 is. From your own paper, what do you think g of negative 1 is? 3. Y'all agree? So when x is negative 1, my point's right here. So that's 3. I think you can all tell me what g of negative 3 is. What's g of negative 3? 0. That's this right here. That's that point. So that y-coordinate is 0. You can all tell me what g of 5 is. What's g of 5? Negative 2. All right, now let's talk about let's talk about g of 2. Okay, so again, remember all this means is this: when x is negative 1, what is the y value? What's my y value? 3. When x is negative 3, what was my y value? 0. When x is 5, what was my y value? All right. Now when x is 2, what's my y value? No, there isn't one because that's not part of your graph. It's an open circle. So an open circle is not part of your graph. So if you were asked what is g of 2, you would say does not exist. because of that open circle. So G of 2 does not exist because of that open circle. Yes?
So does it affect the way that you are decreasing?
No. No, because we're talking about open intervals anyway.
Okay.
So remember, increasing, decreasing, constant, and open intervals, are any of them brackets?
No.
No, they're always open intervals for that reason.
So you would still write union 2 up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though x equals 2 is not in the domain, we're talking about open intervals, so they're all open. Okay, so let's do the increasing, decreasing. So let me go here and do that. So increasing, just from -2 to what? 0? Remember, they're all they're all parentheses, open intervals. And then decreasing from where? 0 to 1, union, and then what? 2 to 5. All right. So this is the one that you have to really think about, and it's the reason it's not from 0 to 5 is because of that gap right here. There's nothing between 1 and 2. Okay, so make a note of that. And then constant. Okay, -5 to -2. All right, and that's it. That's all that was. All right, turn to the next page. Okay, next page. All right, go ahead and put this an arrow right here. Make that an arrow.
I'm going to have to deduct a half a point from that.
Well, you deduct quite a few points from that test, right? Well, no, actually, it's pretty interesting that a couple of students figured out that there's something wrong with this and came up. One student who finished early didn't come up. All right. So, what do you notice about this function in terms of increasing, decreasing constant? It's all increasing. So from, now where does it start? -4. So from -4 all the way to what? Infinity is doing what? Increasing. And then it's nowhere everywhere else, right? And then constant nowhere. Okay? What is the X-intercept? Now remember, the X-intercept is where the graph crosses or touches the x-axis. -4. So the X-intercept's -4. That's where it touches the x-axis. As an ordered pair, what is it? Yeah. Oops. Yep. Thank you. This is -4, 0, right? What's the Y-intercept? X equal 2, or as an ordered pair, what? 0, 2. Okay. And that's about all we can figure out from this, because there are no any grid lines at all. So that's about all I can probably ask you from that one. Okay, and then finally, let's look at this one. There are no arrows here. So from -5 to what? -4, your y values are increasing. From x equal -4 to x equal -1, your y values are constant. From x equal -1 to x equal 2, your y values are decreasing. And then from 2 to 3, increasing, and then from 3 to 5, decreasing. Okay? All right, so increasing, all right, where's it increasing? From, okay, union, 2, 3, and that's it, right? Okay, where's it decreasing? Very good, and one more, 3 to 5. Okay, good, and then constant, and that's it, right? Okay, so notice those pink lines divide the number line into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals, correct? Say it again. Did I miss something? Increasing from, oh, you're right. From here, from where I'm standing, looking at it, it looks like -5, but -6, correct? You agree that's -6? Okay. So there are 5 intervals. I should have 5 intervals here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. What are the X-intercepts? Just list them. -5, comma, 0, comma, and 3. Good. And if they ask you for order pair, you know what to put. What are the Y-intercept? There. Now, is this a function? Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. If it's a function, how many Y-intercepts can you have? Oh, okay. You're telling me I can have an infinite number of Y-intercepts? No, think about it. How many can you have? Okay, so y'all keep saying a lot. So let me do something. Yeah, guys, if it's a function that can only be one Y-intercept, if that can be how many X-intercepts? An infinite number. Okay, watch. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. Because that's kind of one of the questions in my math lab has to do with that. So and let's say it keeps on going like this, okay? How many X-intercepts are there? No. You're saying 3? No, how many? It keeps on going like this, guys. An infinite number, right? But it's still a function, correct? So do y'all agree that for a function, I can have an infinite number of X-intercepts? All right, for this one. Now, obviously for this one, I don't have an infinite number. How many did I have? There's 3. Now, my other question was this. Can I have more than one Y-intercept if it's a function? No. Now, some of you said yes. So I'm going to draw a graph that has more than one Y-intercept. If it does, it's got to look something like this. That has more than one Y-intercept, right? But it fails what? Vertical line test. So you can't have more than one Y-intercept. You understand that now? But you can have a lot of X-intercepts. Okay? All right, so in terms of 2.1, you're good to do 2.1, so I'm going to assign it in my math lab. So you have about 5 days to finish it, 2.1. Okay? Now, one of the things we were talking about last class period, so let's kind of review something from the last class period, is this, and that's going to take us to one part of 2.2. But we did something like this. Remember we evaluated functions last class period at the end? You remember that? So write this down. Suppose f of x is, let's say f of x is 3x squared plus 4x minus 1. This is going to be part of 2.2. 2.2. We're done with 2.1. But we started talking about that in last class period. Say it again. We only talk about domain and range yesterday in terms of circles. That's all we need to do at that point. Right? Okay, I don't think 2.1, on the worksheet 2.1, do they have anything about domain and range that's not a circle? I don't think it.
2.1, part 3. It says domain range, Y-intercept, X-intercept.
Okay, let me see what the graph looks like. It appears on the graph to make it. Okay, that I can do. Let's talk about domain and range on that time. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about domain and range. So we're just on part 3, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here's what you do. I'm going to go back to the sheet we were just looking at. Let's talk about domain and range. It's very easy. Domain and range is easy. It's just like me taking that ruler. Remember when I did the ruler for the circle? Same thing. Same thing. So watch. So let's go back to this one. Let's see. All right, let's do this one. I want you to take out that other sheet. And I'm going to choose certain ones to do. All right, so the ones that are going to help you on the worksheet. So this looks something like the worksheet, right? Okay, so that's a closed circle. That's a what? Open circle. All right, so let's talk about domain and range. Okay, so remember, domain is a set of what? X coordinates. The range is a set of Y coordinates. And so to find the domain, remember I go along the x-axis, right? Remember this? Remember that idea? All right. So I start touching the graph along the x-axis when I get to x equal what? -6. Now remember, domain and range, you got to use brackets or parentheses. Okay? So go ahead and find it. It's that other sheet. It's the other handout I gave you. So I asked you to bring both handouts. The first page looks like this. It doesn't have anything on it. I need to take that worksheet out. I mean, not a worksheet, but that handout out. Okay. So, as I go from left to right along the x-axis, I think there's some extra ones up there. I asked y'all to get them if you didn't get everything. As I go along the x-axis, where do I start touching the graph? -6. Where do I end? At 6. Okay? Now, this is a closed circle. That means that point is part of the graph. This is an open circle. That means that point is not part of the graph. Okay? So that's where the bracket and parentheses come into play. So when I go from x equal -6, so my domain is going to be from x equal -6 all the way to x equal what? 6. So it's going to look like this. Now see at -6, is this an open or closed circle right here? So it'll be bracket, -6 to what? 6 with a parentheses. Very good. So that's going to be your domain. So notice I went from left to right. I start touching at -6, ended up at +6, -6, +6, bracket here because of the closed circle. You remember it's very similar to the inequality, less than or equal to. If there was an equal sign, you use a closed circle. If there was no equal sign, you use a what? Parentheses. Okay? So from -6 bracket to 6 parentheses. Now the range, you go where? You go along the y. So I start touching the graph when y is what? -2. You need to use a ruler if you have to. Use something to help you. And I stop when y is what? 1. All right? Now remember, this is closed, this one's open. So tell me what you think the range would be. Bracket what? Very good. 1 parentheses. All right? So bracket -2, because that's where it starts. That's where your y value starts. Y'all agree that's the lowest y value on this graph? And that's the largest y value in this graph is 1, but I can't use because it's open. All right. So notice all the other y values, all the other points right here, all those points, the y values lie between where? -2 and 1. Okay. What's f of 2? 0. What's f of -6? Very good. All right. Let's talk about this right here. Now some of this is. This is a combination of 6.62, by the way. Some of this is 6. I said 6.1. I mean 2.122. Some of this is from 2.1. Some of this is from 2.2. This one here is from 2.2. Now this is what it means. Listen carefully. Remember, f of x means the same thing as what? Y. So they're asking, what is the x value when y is what? -2. So on your graph, you got to find out where's that point. Where's that point when y is what? -2. Can y'all see it? Okay, so point on your own paper where it's at, and then I'm gonna put a dot where it should be and see if you matched mine. So when y is -2, that's y -2 here, right? The point of the graph is right here. Y'all see it? So that's that point of the graph. So what's my x coordinate? -6. So the answer is x equal -6. Okay? All right, what if I asked you this? Do an F here. Do an F. Let's make this an F. Find x if f of x equals -1. Find x if f of x equals -1. See if you can figure that one out. What do you think x should be? Here's... No, now be careful. They don't know what's the x-coordinate, so don't say -3 and -2. Oh, I see what you're saying. You see that? Okay, be careful. I messed this up when I was drawing the graph. See that little dot here? I meant to use liquid paper. See this little dot right here? Take that off. This is the only part of your graph right here, right? Now see it? That's the only part of the graph. So when I was drawing the graph, I was putting dots here to help me graph it, but I accidentally put a dot here.
So it's -2.
Very good, just -2, yes. Yes. So you got to say x equal what? So you agree that when y is -1, here's -1 right here, right on the y-axis? The point that corresponds to it is right here. Y'all agree? Yes or no? All right, and the question is, what's that x value? What's that x value? -2. You see how to deal with this? Okay, that's going to be section 2.2. All right, let's look at this one. Okay, so remember, domain, you go where? Across the x-axis. Now, notice those are arrows now. These were closed and open circles. These are arrows. So arrows, guys, remember, means, in this case, that it keeps on going down like this, right? Y'all agree? All right. But again, you're going along the x-axis. So as I'm going from -infinity all the way to what? Positive infinity, that's your domain. Y'all agree? Okay, so your domain from -infinity all the way to positive infinity, because I don't stop because that's an arrow, right? Keeps on going. Now remember, when you talk about -infinity to positive infinity, that's always parentheses. Now the range. Remember, the range, you go along the y-axis. This thing is pointing down, correct? So I'm going from, no, not 1. You got to go from bottom up, guys. You got to from bottom up. We talked about that with the circles. You got to remember that. -infinity all the way to this y value, which is what? 3. So from -infinity all the way to, and you stop here because there's nothing else. And what's that y value? 3. So -infinity parentheses, 3 with a what? Bracket. So -infinity to 3. 3 with the bracket. So you're going from, see the arrows pointing down, so you go from -infinity all the way to 3. And that's where you stop. Okay, what's f of -4?
1.
All right, so f of -4. So remember, f of -4 means what's the y value when x is what? -4. So here's -4. What's this y value? 1. What's the x-intercept? -5 and 1. -5, comma, 1. Don't put that in parentheses, right? Because you put that in parentheses, you're indicating that's a point, and that's not a point. -5, 1 is in the second quadrant. What's a y-intercept? 1. Okay, let's talk about this now. Find x when, remember, f of x means what? Y. So you got to figure out what point do I get a y value of what? 2. How many are there, do you think?
2.
Yeah, there are 2 of them, right? Now see that? Look, when y is 2, correct? So look, always go along your y-axis and find out where y is 2. Y'all agree y is 2 here, right? How many points on that graph do I have y is 2? 2 of them. Here, what's that y value? What's the y value? What's the y value? What's the y value? 2. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. All right, let's do this again. When y is 2, that's this one here, right? Okay, you'll see it's this point here. What's that Y value? What's the Y value? 2. What's this Y value? 2. The question is, what are the X's, though? What's the X's? Okay. So, -3, comma, and what? -1. You gonna put that in parentheses? No. Just leave it like that. Okay, y'all see what to do? All right, look at the other one. This time you want your Y value to be what? 0. So your Y value, Y0 here, right? Okay, so pinpoint the points that are on it, though. Here, Y0, and here, Y0. See it? So there are 2 of them. So what are your 2 X coordinates? Your X coordinates are -5 and what? 1. So put -5, comma, 1. Okay? You see how that works? All right. And then let me go ahead and do one more. Well, I think you should, on that worksheet 2.1 part 3, that should be good with that now, right? Domain and range? Yes?
Yeah. You're going to post this video, right?
Yeah, the video's already there for that. Oh, you're talking about this video? Yeah, this one, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think you can do the 2.1 part 3 now. Okay? Now remember, next class period though, we gotta talk again more about this. So that's what I was trying to bring up. So next class period we're gonna find what is f of x plus 5. We started it last class period. So remember, that means that wherever I see the variable x, what do I plug in? Yeah. You remember that? I think it was that last page of the notes. If you take all of you got the notes, correct? All of you got the notes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was that last page. So I'll do one more like this next class period, and then we're going to finish up. We're going to finish up section 2.2. Okay? All right.